The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome
Good morning.
to our e-learning for November 2nd, 2016.
We're not going to forget this day for a long time, I don't think. And with everything that's going on, as many of you know,
Game 7?
Yes, Game 7 of the World Series, the Cubs against the Cleveland Indians. Now, everyone knows I'm a Cleveland Indians fan, born in Ohio. And the Cubs, all of you and our international or national listeners might not understand the influence of today, but I've got butterflies. So talking about system upgrades, I hope Cleveland made some system adjustments going into Game 7 today. So anyway, I thought that was a good lead-in.
You've got the basketball champion.
I know.
Take them one at a time.
You know what? When you've been in a drought for so many years, you'll take as much as you can. I know, blood's thicker than water. Okay, so here we go. So system upgrades. Very, very excited to talk about this topic because it's one that we try to lead off of here at PSC, and definitely, even though they don't call it this, I definitely see it in the schools as well. So let's talk about what enhancements are and what we should be thinking about on a regular basis. One of the things that we think about at PSC when we gather, ongoing throughout the year, but of course at the beginning of the year, is what's the playbook going to look like for 2017? And we talk about what enhancements are we trying to make. Now, we make enhancements all throughout the year, which all of you do too. You're making them as you see fit, or as you see that change is needed in your organization. You might make changes on the spot, on the fly, and you also might plan for changes. One of the things that we talk about here often is the enhancements in these three areas, which we've covered in other e-learning sessions in the past. But we're going to focus on how the system upgrades really impact many areas of our business. So when we come together, even as we're starting to write 2017 at PSC, what systems enhancements do we want to make next year? And all those systems that allow us to do what we do with ease and more efficiency. Also, what service enhancements do we want to make in 2017? It might be a product launch. It might be the way we answer the phone. And I'll give you more examples as Steve and I are going through. And then, of course, what people enhancements. Now, people enhancements isn't always just additions. And sometimes an enhancement could be a departure. But also, it's the ongoing staff. What do we have in place that's going to help them grow? And sometimes we're growing them and they don't even know it. So we have to say, these are the people enhancements we made this year to bring on more depth in your contribution to our companies. So I think the beauty industry does a great job technically. I mean, if we think about most of the education that's spent in the industry, it's how to do their techniques better. But there's so much more to people enhancements versus keystrokes and techniques that can be elaborated. And so, and really, you can really capitalize on more when you're developing people and their skill set. So we're going to talk about that some more. Steve, you want to jump in to start this?
I just think, again, in lights with system services and people, I'm thinking back, Terry, to the last, just earlier in October, I was at our summit for our schools. And it's amazing to me that change, that the enhancements that come down from our franchisor in our systems and our services and in their kind of outline and definition of what they're looking for in our people. And so, yeah, you're right, Terry, it does exist on the school side, but I think that we don't often, sometimes in the salon industry, we wait for changes to come to us. We're in a business of change, but we change and we enhance almost reluctantly.
Create the change. Yep.
Exactly. And so that would be my challenge. Here we are at the beginning of November. We've got 2 months left in 2016. Leadership thoughts, development thoughts should be moving in the direction of 2017 if they haven't already. And so these are very, very good questions. What is your playbook? What are the enhancements? What needs to be enhanced? If we take the guest's view and think about how the guests are experiencing other businesses, and then say, how are they experiencing our salon? And how does that need to adapt, to change, and to be better in 2017?
Well, and if you need to, take yourself out for a cup of coffee and list all the enhancements you made in 2016. Now, because they're not documented, maybe you might forget some of those. But if you didn't do many, it's probably time. And remember, enhancements and services and enhancements and systems sometimes can be the way the place looks. That's an enhancement too. What additions did we do? And don't take that lightly. Say, oh, we got new light fixtures. That's an enhancement to the facility, and it's an enhancement because it allows the customer to know that you're preparing for your place to be better for them. It's really not just for you; it's for the guest experience. So, let's go ahead and talk. I mean, oftentimes, and what you're going to find in the future slides that are coming up is oftentimes one change can impact all three. And I'll give you an example of that. And I'm going to talk about hours of operation because that's the one I like to use the most that impacts all three. Service is impacted sometimes when hours of operation change because it can create more energy. It can create more impact on the way the team is working together. So it'll allow us to give better services. More energy is there. More resources are there. So sometimes changing our hours can really impact the way the customer views our service. It impacts our systems because they have to be tighter. They have to realize that this hours, let's say we're going from 69 hours of open to 45. Our systems are going to be impacted because of the way we have to schedule, the amount of staff we have to have on, the amount of front desk and support help that we have. It's not going to be spread out over 69 hours. It's going to be put into a more concentrated area. So it's going to impact our scheduling, so our systems will be impacted. And it's also going to impact our people because when you're together, all of you working the same schedule, instead of 2 on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday, 2 on Thursday, and everyone together on Saturday. Can you imagine what Saturday looks like now and the energy it creates to have everyone together all the time, so it impacts our people too. So oftentimes, one change can impact all three. And really, it's the biggest bang for your buck when it does that because it's such an obvious change to the customer, to the leadership, to the staff. It's just huge, and I love when one change can do just that and impact all three. So let's give an example of this. One of the things that I've done is create a spreadsheet for you of something you should have ongoing, where you have your hours of operation. This is what I keep in my need log, where I see these are the things we're working on, and it's kind of the, let's say this would be the Salon playbook and ideas for 2017. We're going to change our hours of operation on January 1st. We're going to enclose our wash house on January 1st. We're going to launch Wild Ginger on March 1st. Dress code is going to be put into place with more specifics on the 1st. We're putting ZZOR in on the 1st. Education at PSC, and so on and so forth. Look how it impacts, in some cases, multiples. And you need to define when you present it to your staff, this is going to impact our service, it's going to impact our systems, it's going to impact our people. Very rarely is it only impacting one. So this is an example. We'll come back and look at this, but I want you to know that your leadership should be creating these visuals for your staff so they know they're in good hands. We've talked about that before. Is, you know, some owners show up to meetings without an agenda. Some owners show up to meetings and don't even know what they're going to say that day. They've got a bag of tricks of knowledge, so they'll just dump it on the table. But what does the staff know they're going to learn from you? Very similar to e-learning for 2016, we didn't just show up on Wednesdays without the topic planned in advance. We didn't just show up and say we're going to have a conversation. There is a planned agenda, and a presentation. So what are you doing at your staff meetings? Some of you aren't holding them enough, but even when you do, you're not talking about what they can expect from your leadership in a systems, service, and people way. Steve?
I would obviously agree with that, and it's something that many times we use the excuse, myself included, of just busy and pace, to not being more visual with the staff, to not being more visual with people, letting them know what you're working on, letting them know what the long term, really the short term. I think the long term, entrepreneurs and dreamers and visionary people have this grandiose picture of what the business is going to look like when it's done. But it's the short term. It's short term being 2017. What steps are going to be in place? What are the quantifiable, measurable things that we're going to do, and how do we keep that in the forefront of the entire team's mind? Because it's not just one. It's not just one person.
Well, and I think you're going to see at the end that we're going to talk about multiple intelligences again, because it's how people learn, and it's also how they understand. Steve and I, as an example, he is very audio, very visionary, and because he stores all of it, it's very hard for him sometimes to put his ideas out in front of everyone so they can be on the same page. I am not audio. I have difficulty unless I can see what someone's talking about. And so therefore, if someone says, well, this is what we're going to do, I need to see it. It's a visual for me. The other day, we were having a conversation, and I had requested something, and Steve said, well, what are you going to look at it one time and put it away? Because I need to look at it. It doesn't matter. I have to have a visual to support my learnings and my findings. Steve doesn't need one, so therefore he doesn't usually create them. The trouble is who's going to connect with Steve the most are other audio people. And he's going to leave the people that are visual learners and visual connectors, they're going to feel not qualified to keep up with him. And that's the danger of it. And if any of you can relate to that comment, you have to realize, it takes time. You can't use pace and I didn't have it. You can't use knowledge as an excuse. Like, I know it, so I'll be able to present it. No, but the learner might not be able to learn it because it wasn't presented the right way for them. Oh, gosh, I hope that made sense. All right, so this requires a plan, an analysis, a willingness to change, and be committed to changes. What changes do you need to take place right now? And it could be even the way you recruit in the salon. I was with an owner this week that said, I need staff. I said, okay, what are you doing about it? Seriously, what the thing is. The change is you need more staff and you've got to recruit them. But what are you doing about it? Well, nothing. Well, great. Then you're going to have the same result. Nothing equals nothing. So what are you willing to do? Now, I think you're gonna like that this is on here. We've said it before, but remember, stress is change something or change trying to take place, and you will not let it. What are the stress zones in your business right now? What are they? And one of them for me is walking into the same situation, not changing something and expecting a different result. It makes me a crazy person. If we know something's wrong, then we've got to put the effort in to fixing that. This is what we said last time. Discipline is uncomfortable short term, and compromise is uncomfortable forever. And this is key if you don't want to change your business. And another salon doesn't have to dictate when you need to change. You need to be saying, I am willing. We embrace change. Not change just for change's sake. Change because it's an enhancement that our guest and my staff needs to be in good hands with my leadership. Even watching the World Series, you see the playbook in front of these managers. You see them looking at their sheet all the time. There's option A, option B, option C, option C, D. what are we going to do if this is our formula for success? How are we going to jump in and win this game tonight? So they have to make changes too for a 3-hour ball game. Sometimes we think because our business is open all the time, change can just happen. But we've got a responsibility to create that change for our team, and they've got to try to keep up with us. There's nothing worse than working for a business that's already dead. Okay. So here's one of my favorites too. You may say you do not have a system. I mean, we've had owners come to us and say, you know what, I want to meet with you because I do not have any systems in place. Here's the trouble with that statement is if you go to work every day and you open, you have a system. You might not like it, but there is a system. So if you don't like it, your staff doesn't like it, at some point your customers aren't going to like it, and you're putting this whole business at risk. That's why you've got to make the changes necessary. Steve, elaborate on that, please, over the years of what you've seen. I feel like Greeny and Golick today.
Yeah. It's funny, I was thinking of teasing you more about the World Series like they did. But anyway, I think the biggest thing with the system is looking at times when it's not right. The hardest thing that we all have to do to deal with this is the business is moving. If all of us could shut down the business and not lose our shirts, if we could shut down the business for a day or 2 days or a week and then assess what's working, what isn't working, what changes do I need to make, what steps do we need to take, then educate our staff, then reopen, it would be much easier. But we've got to do all of this while the business is working.
That's such a great point, because I think I'd be an outstanding baseball manager. Ha 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 ha, funny. But you know what? They've got 5 months in the off season to prepare for next year. What do you think they're doing during the off season? They're trying to create their enhancements of a better lineup. They're trying to develop their people. Some people are going into, they've got whole routines they've got to do in their 5 months off when they come back for spring training. They're talking about their defensive and offensive strategies. They're talking about how they're going to compete. I mean, that's what they're doing for 5 months. They better be prepared. We're trying to do all this on Sunday afternoon because we're going to open again tomorrow.
They're doing it in the time in between when one game ends and the next game begins.
That's right.
If they're working only 8 hours a day, which during the season they work more than that, and a game is 2.5 or 3 hours, they've got 5 hours to work on it, and not during the game while everything's happening. So it does make a difference, and not to say that to frustrate anyone or make you feel defeated. It's just what we all have to deal with, and we also can get distracted at any moment with what is happening in the day. It can be a disgruntled guest. It can be a stylist calling off sick. It can be a front desk person calling off sick. It can be any number of things. A guest that's unhappy that's at the desk, or that wrote a bad review, or that's calling incessantly to talk to you, and you've got a full day schedule behind the chair. All of those things happen while the business is going, and while we're saying simplify the system or redesign the system, get ready for 2017. But again, therein lies the challenge. That's what we have signed on for as entrepreneurs, as leaders, as visionaries, and just is part of it. So I think that realizing that the last part of this, you may not like your system, but there is a system. And I know personally, when I get the most frustrated is when I think that our team should know the system, they don't use it, and then things don't work out, and they want to know why. Or they don't understand why. Or they look back at you and say, I did everything I could. Well, no, you didn't, because you didn't follow our system. If you'd have followed our system and we failed, then I'd be okay with it. But when you don't follow our system and fail, then to me it's missed opportunity, because
it's funny. Yesterday Tammy came up to my office and she was telling me, oh my gosh, we had a faux pas happening in customer service, and she said it took Sarah and I to get involved to put it all back together and recreate a story. And my favorite line that she said that she didn't even know it, and I was so pleased, as she said, Thursday I'm going to do a case study with the rest of the team so we can see how to prevent this from happening again. I loved that. I was so happy to hear that from a leader's standpoint. Not to just, we're going to correct it, and gosh darn it, what a day, and oh my God, and if we could start this day over again, versus saying, you know what, we made a mistake, we're human, right, and we fixed it, and now we're going to do a case study to see how we all can learn from it. Got it. It was a proud owner moment for me to realize that train of thought, because sometimes we'll keep an air alive for how long? We'll keep a negative situation alive and roll our eyes at it, and versus saying, all right, how are we going to fix it, and how do we create and talk about the system so this doesn't happen again? I loved it. I was very impressed with that yesterday. It just made me feel good. And we could do case studies with color. We could do case studies with scheduling, what could have happened differently when a faux pas takes place. We can do case studies with our staff, and you could create case studies right in your staff meeting saying, what can we learn from this? How can we do it again? We had another situation where I received a text last night, Steve and I did, and Jennifer, from one of our staff saying, this is what happened. Gosh, I'm so frustrated. What do I do about it? And I think we all gave our suggestions, and then at the end we said, what did you learn from this? What did you learn? What can you do so this doesn't happen to you again? When could you have caught it? Were there early signs? And that's all system thinking. That's teaching people how to think in your system and think in your business, and that's powerful. Okay. You want to add anything before we go on?
No, I think I agree with what you're saying. One of the things that I wondered, I think, before we can really do case studies, the creative force in each one of you needs to rename that for hairdressers, whether it be around the color bowl or past clippings or whatever.
Oh, they don't like case studies?
I think case study sounds too businessy.
Okay.
To head, not heart. So I would just challenge everybody to find a way to personalize that to your salon even.
Yeah, we could open the drawer. I mean, we could do anything, right?
Right.
Good.
Right.
I like that. Yeah, I think so too. I mean, sometimes they would think, okay, what? Are we going to the boardroom now? That's why we don't like that. All right, so let's talk about every part of things that could be part. The system is always a solution. So if you start thinking, take yourself out for coffee again and say, what is my system of recruiting? How do we do it? What are the tools that we use? Who's qualified to do recruiting? Should we be doing a YouTube video? How often do we want to recruit? What is our positioning going to be with the schools? How often do we want to be in the schools? Are we going to schedule that in our playbook for 2017? How do we give back to the schools that we're trying to recruit from? Remember, one of the things in the recruiting process is you've got to be a household name to people that are in schools and to schools themselves. You need to become a household name. It shouldn't be, and what salon are you with, and where are you located, and who are you? You know how this generation asks that question, and they say it just like that. And what salon are you, and where are you? And I always think, God, I mean, versus saying, so you're ABC Salon in River Forest, right? Yes. Great. We've been talking about you here. Things like that. I mean, you want to hear statements of strength when it comes to recruiting, and your listeners should be absolutely know that you're in their top 10. I think we talked about this before, but if you had to say in the schools in your 25-mile radius, what salons are in their top 25? Who are in the top 25 salons that most of the students know? And are you one of those 25 names? And it'd be hard. It'd be hard to say you're not on the list. You want to make the list. So what is your system of recruiting? And you need to be recruiting even when you don't need staff. you still need to have presence there, even if you're not hiring at the time. I love the recruiting because all it is to find out who can have the most fun doing it. Because if recruiting's a chore, it'll never get done. How do you make the recruiting category a lot of fun? And once again, do you have a recruiting scout who's the best at it, bringing people into your business?
Mm-hmm. And again, this is something that typically gets left over time. I see it all the time in this on the school side. We get flyers, we get email requests, we get Facebook requests. Can you please put a sign up that we need people? I can tell you that when it moves to a priority, I think that there's so much of a difference that you can make. But it's one of those things that should be, I think, on the list this year for how can we make impact.
Yeah, I think that you're right. It's only usually when it's in an emergency situation, right? Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I saw a quote yesterday, and I wrestled with it all day. I don't honestly know how I feel about this, but it comes to mind to repeat. And it says, "Your lack of preparation does not automatically become my emergency situation." So your lack of prep doesn't become my emergency. And I think that it kind of fits, because when we need somebody in an emergency situation, we need people, and we want to offload it instantly to somebody else. I need it, and I need it right now. Get it for me. And really, it's fix it upline, fix it upstream. And that's what we have the opportunity to do right now, to look at 2017, to say what are the number of people that I think I'm going to need to grow my team? What are the number of people I think that for whatever reason are going to turn over? What are the number of people that I require in order to run my system? It's easier to see sometimes in a school setting. I know the number of people that I need just to facilitate the curriculum, whether I've got a student or not, whether there's one future professional. To open the door, I've got to have this number of people just to execute on the curriculum that we have. And so in the salon, what is it that you have to have in 2017? Just open the door. What is it that you're going to grow? As you promote someone from an assistant and give them a chair, what's your plan for bringing the next one in behind them? All of those types of things. What's your annual attrition, where people either move away, your staff moves away, leaves to go to another salon, or things like that? Is there a number? We don't have to be surprised by it.
I agree with that. I mean, I think that also I want to tell my staff, if this hire goes well, the assistant we have now goes well, we are expecting her to be on the floor by April 1st. That means the other trainee has got to be hired by March 1st. All right, so did I say that okay? Meaning we're going to have our assistant that's helping us, but we're going to lose our assistant to the floor April 1st. That means she's got to train the person before them for a month. We can't afford, we don't want to put more time into, meaning having two assistants for 4 months. So we're going to try to time it. So we've got 30 days of training for the new assistant, and then it'll change over. So now everyone knows that we're doing this April 1st and March 1st. Now we've got a team that understands what we're trying to accomplish. There's nothing worse when they don't know, because when people come to their own conclusion, 9 times out of 10 it's negative. And for you owners on the phone that don't share your thoughts or share what your plan is, they don't understand what you're doing and they think they have a better way. All right, so the hiring and the training kind of go together, kind of. But what happens is if I start with you, what does the training look like? We've been talking about module trainings. You'll see more of that in 2017 from us, adding to our business classes, and we might even do a one-day training on how to train your people to create really good outcomes for you. But right now, we just have them start, and they don't know what you expect from them 30, 60, 90, or after module 1, 2, 3, 4. Where should I be? And even in our company, we've got to get better at creating milestones of the employees. It's hard. You know, when you're a 33-year-old business and people come on board, they're not going to learn 33 years of PSC in their first 6 months. They're going to, and you think you're training it, but it's very difficult to do so. So we've got to be able to help them understand and come back and go back and get them, because they don't have the knowledge to get them up to speed with our thinking. And it does take some time. We might be able to train the systems, we might be able to train the steps of the service, but it's going to take longer than that to teach them how we think. So if you think about right now, what is your system of the first 3, recruiting, hiring, training, and then how often do you gather? What is your system of gathering? Are you gathering once a month, or do you say, oh, we need a meeting now? That's a system. How often are you gathering? How often are you celebrating? What does your career path look like for them? Is it obvious how I can grow within the salon? What is the system of pricing? Do I earn my price increase by criteria, or is it by length of time, or is it when you think I'm busy enough and I've gotten to a certain volume? What is the pricing and how is it? The amount of owners that say, I'm going to give her a price increase, it's time to move her prices up. I couldn't work for that. If that was a target and I wanted my prices to go up, but I don't really know, and you can't quantify or qualify why my prices are going up, I'd really struggle with that. I'd really have a hard time with that. What is the system of check-in and check-out? Is it smooth? Are there ever any bottlenecks? Is there anything that could make that easier? So all of these are systems. And is it easy? Is it smooth as glass, or what could you do differently? Hours of operation we touched on a little bit, but that's a system. You decided your system of how you were going to be open and what your staff scheduling would be like. You go into computer software, geez, that's a system and a class all in itself, because how much of the system are you honoring? What new things are you going to put in that the system is able to do with your software that you haven't implemented yet? And maybe that'll be part of your playbook in 2017. The first quarter, we're going to roll out these features of the system we're not using. The second quarter, we're going to roll these out. And we're going to ask our staff to do some self-study on it so they're ready to use it. What do you want to say on computer software?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that how many of us have fully executed on online scheduling, online booking for appointments for our guests. And when I say have fully executed, I think that there's people who say, well, they can do it. That's what I would say for the schools. They can kind of do it through Demandforce. They can put in a request to schedule an appointment, and we'll call them. But others maybe have it attached to their software. There are some software companies out there. Some have it, right through their website. But very few people have really taken it to the level I think that Terry's talking about, where they view it as an additional service. Yes, it's a system that needs, and then a system needs to be put in place because it really is convenient for our guests. The majority of people are now living through their smartphones, and so the more we can get to that and be more available at times when they're available. I'm convinced it's definitely on our list at the schools, but it's a learning curve for our stylists. In our case, it's our future professionals, but in your case, for the stylists, so that they understand it and can talk to their guests about it. Our service desk needs to be able to explain it so that they can
defend it, right?
Yeah, and defend it, and then we've got to, I think, then set goals for what percentage. Do we want 20% of our appointments? Do we want 50% of our appointments? Do we want to get to 70%? What's the outcome? But I do think that it's time that every salon put that on their list of priorities for the, relative to computer software. So for me, we're going to get a whole lot more friendly with Millennium on that topic and learn what we need to learn. It's our learning curve, not their software. And so when we understand it better, then we're going to make it more of a priority, and that's definitely for 2017 for us.
And you know, you could even ask them. I mean, if you had to say to them, what are the, I mean, I would ask this of the software. This is what I'm currently using, and what should I roll out, and what should I roll, because it gets overwhelming. If there's 100 things you're not using yet, you go, oh God, where should I start? And maybe you create a partnership with them and say, where would you go next? What is the biggest bang for my buck? Or what are your best features? What are your top 10 reports? I mean, get people involved, but to do nothing with it, to have that sitting there that could really be a partner in your business, giving you facts and good information how to make the system enhancements that you need to do. I think your software could tell you what you need to do with your people, what you need to do with your services, and what you need to do your systems. It's probably screaming at you right now, and you just can't hear it.
Well, I met with a salon owner the other day, and our discussion was about Tuesdays. And in their particular salon, Tuesdays was the weakest day of the week for them. And so we talked about it. I said, well, let's look at it. We've got to make everything that we do about Tuesdays. And so, do you have Demandforce? Yes. Do you? And I know their software program, which is Millennium, and it's works very well with Demandforce. I said, we need to be able to target specialized emails to clients that we have recently lost or that haven't been in a while, and we've got to make certain invites to them as VIPs for only on Tuesdays.
Well, and you could call it Tuesdays, meaning TWO, day.
Great idea.
And do a treatment or something, and you do something just on Tuesdays that they get something, 2 things, for the price of 1, or 2 at 50% off, but you can create something with it.
So where we talked
just
about,
say, well, and and he probably just said Tuesdays are our worst day, right?
Yeah. And so we said, okay, let's look at the first resource. First resource is referral word of mouth, talking to the guests that are already coming in and getting them to send us more guests and to make a special offer for Tuesday. Second thing is Demandforce. Targeting people, again, it has a way of segmenting your client base and reaching out only to some and offering a special just for those people on that time frame. And then the third is living social. Those type of ads where you put something out, you make it only available on a Tuesday, but to do nothing. And I'm not saying that particular salon was doing absolutely nothing, but I'm saying it happens. We just go to work Tuesday because it's Tuesday again, and to not. This is, I think, the essence of what we're talking about today. What enhancements do we need to make in the business? And it's not only in the business. It's what enhancements do we need to make in the way we're thinking about the business in order to bring about a different result. And there are tools there. There's tools already that you're paying for that are right there in your salon. And it's just a matter of asking the right questions and thinking in the right way, and not just accepting the status quo.
Well, and I think about the restaurant industry always. Monday through Thursday, kids eat what? Free, right? And it's not because Monday and Thursday is the only time they want kids to eat free and feed them. It's because they need the traffic Monday through Thursday, and they know children have parents. And
they don't drive themselves.
And they don't drive themselves, right? So that's what's powerful, but you got to think like that. And if on Tuesdays you need kids to get haircuts for free or trims for free on Tuesdays, do something.
In the school, it's Wednesdays. So we do something every Wednesday called Men on Wednesday. MOW, Men on Wednesday. And then there's a special price for men every Wednesday, always on Wednesday. Now, I'm not saying that can be directly translated, but the idea is do something. Don't just accept. We're a business is based on traffic. Are we thinking about are we thinking about how we increase that traffic? And are we working programs and enhancements that make the traffic grow? Everyone's number one responsibility is to create a repeat guest. And in order to create a repeat guest, we have to have a guest. And there's people in our staffs. Again, I reviewed a different salon a while back, and at best, even the leaders were 50% scheduled. 50% of the hours that they were working, 50% of the time,
well,
they had a guest in their chair.
I had a young lady that was working 40 hours a week, sat down with me, and we're kind of off subject a little bit, but this is impactful. And I said, how many guests are you averaging? She said, 32. I said, oh, that's very good. 32 guests a week in 40 hours? That's a good number. Talking about, no, 32 a month. So she was averaging 8 a week. Mm-hmm. I said, please help me understand, young lady, what you are doing there for 40 hours if you only have 8 customers. I mean, are you an expert on your phone? And she started laughing, and she goes, well, I'm on my phone a lot. I said, of course you are, and you've found that to be a very safe, comfortable space. Hey, anyone can lose an hour on their phone and don't even know it. But this girl's losing 32 hours on her phone and not even knowing it. I mean, something's wrong there. So that's why sometimes you take the phones out of the business, and it's a system, because that could confuse productivity with activity. We're not on our phones because it's the wrong place for our mind to be when we're at work. All right, so let's go. When we're looking out, what is the process and the system for paying out of gratuities? It's ever conversation in front of our customer, because we don't all leave at the same time. Can the customer ever perceive our conversation to be very greedy? There's a system of gratuities. Is it working for you? And is it working for the atmosphere? And is it a positive conversation in your salon, or does it still create doubt that they didn't get the gratuities that are owed to them? You've got to look at, how is our system of that? Payroll, how's our system of that? Are there any questions? Is there anything they don't understand? Do we keep walking into the same question that we have to explain over and over again? And if that's the case, we might have to do an enhancement there. Our salon greeting is a system. Inventory is a system. And does that have to be looked at and examined and evaluated? Remember, it's analysis. You need to do an analysis on these topics. What's our ongoing education look like? I put laundry on here. I know it's silly, but what is our system of laundry? If laundry creates frustration because it's not being done, then you've got to change your system on laundry. Sanitation, if your place isn't clean, you've got to change your system on sanitation. Atmosphere is a system. Do we put the music on? Do we have the right temperature? What is the scent of the salon? And then, you know what? You've got all this supplemental here, too. What's your system for dress code? Phone etiquette. After hours image is a system, and what's your night lighting look like? We have 2 lights that we keep on, our one switch in the front, our outdoor lights. We've got 2 light boxes we keep on in the space. That's our system of our after hours image. And what is yours? And does everyone know it? The resting position, what's the business look like when it's not being used? And then you have all of these other things. I'm just giving you a complete list of things you have to do an analysis on. Oh, I just swallowed one. Go through these. You'll add more to it, but these are all in place for you to almost have a conversation with yourself about.
And I know at some point, when you look at things like this, you're going to say, oh, come on, do we really have to consider all of this? Mm-hmm. Well, your guest is experiencing it. So yeah, if it doesn't touch the guest, maybe it's optional. But if it touches the guest in any way, then it needs consideration.
We had what is the requesting time off? I'm just going to pick a couple of. We had a situation at one salon that they had some educators on staff, and we had given them save the dates, and they never wrote them down. They had them, but they never communicated that with the salon. So then they had to tell the salon, hey, PSC needs these these days from me. And the salon owner is like, well, seriously? I mean, I've scheduled my meetings at the beginning of the year, and PSC is scheduling their days at the beginning of the year. Why are we just talking about this at the last minute? And remember, we have to continually ask our staff in every staff meeting, are you current on the days off you need? Because they'll come up to us and say, I've got a wedding this Saturday, like they didn't know that that was coming up. So we need to make sure we're asking them in advance, what days do you need off? What do we need to black out? So we don't have to call 8 customers and reschedule them, or it doesn't create an uncomfortable moment between you and them because they weren't living a month or 2 months or 6 months out. I mean, some people take time off, schedule their flights and everything, and then decide to ask for the time off. And then you feel like a heel if you're a boss that says, look, that's not going to work for us. Well, I already have my flights. You know, the courteous thing to do is to make sure you request it, get the approval, and then do all that's necessary. And even if you're online tonight, you tell them, even if you're with Southwest and they're having a deal tonight, send me a text and say, hey, can I do this? This is a price I can't pass up, versus announcing to me. We used to say to the kids all the time, are you announcing something to me, or are you asking of me? And sometimes we've got employees that announce to us versus communicate with us, and that's difficult. That's a system too, right? And who's uncomfortable after that conversation? You as the owner. They're fine. They're walking around great. So even that is a system in your business. So you want to take a look at all this list and see what it is. We can add philanthropic and other things. I've got another here. All of these, just like Steve said, the guest is experiencing. So we need to make sure that we've got the things in place that support this so it's not uncomfortable and that it's easy. I remember when I was in the restaurant industry, and they wanted us to memorize the characteristics of, I think there were 100 wines on the wine list at that time, and I thought, man, I don't know how to do that. And they said, oh, you'll learn it over time. Well, I didn't want to look silly, and so I created a card that I put right in my ticket book where the tickets were for the restaurant that you wrote the order on. And on the left of it, I put all 100 wines. I wrote them all down, and I wrote next to them what meals they would complement beautifully. So if the guest ordered a filet or a combination of filet and shrimp or something, I could say, I recommend this. It would complement your choice beautifully, and the characteristics of that wine are dry, light, slightly fruity. Now I'm reading, but because my tray was over the head of the people that were sitting in the restaurant, they couldn't see that I was indirectly using a cheat sheet to become more professional. And it's one of the reasons I was promoted so quickly within Pillsbury, because I created that tool. Here's another thing. What things do you need to put in your business so we even look better? And it could be cheat sheets on product usage, product recommendation. It could be anything. The point is I knew I couldn't trust my own knowledge to pull that category of wine off at an expert level. And so I had to create something. What things in your business need to be created so your people even look better in the eyes of the customer? Okay, I'm going to go to here. In our last e-learning for October, we talked about social, emotional, teamwork, intelligence, common sense, and professional. And I added these because I still think they're really powerful. Oops, okay, all right, we're going to just, no, we're going to do that. So remember, it's not how smart they are, it's how they are smart. And we talked about multiple intelligence, but take the test online. You can find one online that's free. Have your staff take it, and it's going to help you communicate with them. When you look at the social intelligence, you could put social intelligence on your playbook in 2017. You could say, look, we're going to work on our social intelligence all year long. January, we're going to work on eye contact. February, it's all going to be about body language. March, we're going to talk about walking the salon. So you can create underneath all of these you can create focuses within the year. I love the Ritz-Carlton organization. It's one that I still study, and I get an email from them that talks about what are they focusing on. And they've got the 20, what do they call
basics.
them? The 20 basics in their business. And one of them is, we are never to say hello or hi to a guest. We always say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. And they really, even though it's been in place for 30 years, they still focus on those every single day. Every single day in their daily huddle, they talk about one of the basics. So the basics get covered 1.5 times a month, over and over again. So in a year, they're covered, 12, 18 times in a year? And so what are we doing in our companies that focuses on that? I mean, let's say on November 1st, they're going to talk about we don't say hi and hello. And then again on the 29th of November, we're going to talk about the same thing again. Why do you think their disciplines are so strong? Because they are constantly saying, this is how we do it here. And so you can make social intelligence a focus, especially for those that need it. Your team intelligence is what we're working on this month in our playbook is we're going to be focusing on, there's no I in team. We're going to hustle. We're going to be looking up. You're going to be constantly giving direction, but you're going to be working on pace. You're talking to them on team intelligence in what you expect from them in the day-to-day operation of the business. Do we have moments of rest? Yes. I read an article, I think it was in Bazaar or Glamour, that said, in this busy world where work-life imbalance is nuts, women especially have to find ways in their day to bring it down a notch, even if it's for 5 minutes. Those people that say they can take a 20-minute nap and feel really refreshed, I'm not one of those people. But I think if I can take 5 minutes and breathe or do something that's not work-related at all, and maybe feel like I took 5 minutes for myself and I can bring it back up a notch, you can teach them how to do that in your business and how to pace it and how to go breathe or, go stretch for a moment. I don't know, whatever they need. Because sometimes they're not good to each other because they're overstressed and they've got to be able to create those. You could be talking about the common sense intelligence, which I love because we're going to limit the drama in January. So you could take all these senses and put them into a whole playbook. That's what's so cool about them being listed here. This is how we do it here. And we're looking for these kind of things from you. Remember, it's the leadership's job to manage the talent. It's their job to manage the effort. And sometimes what we're seeing is you're not managing your own effort. And we've got to have that conversation with them and give them ideas how effort can look more positive versus negative. Ooh. So I want to open this up to questions. I hope it's bringing some great thought and knowing what you have to work on for 2017. Just go into a quiet place and figure out, if I had the time to improve things, what would it be? I make those lists all the time, and I love when I can go back and see that, look at the strides we did make, look at the changes we did make. And I've got little things on my list right now. For example, in our prep room, I want a whole area that will store color so we don't have to move it in and out of our prep room for our artist over and over again. But I have to have it to be able to be turned around or locked when it's not in use. That's on my list right now. You've got things like that on your list. All right, so now I have to say, is that something that really needs to be in place for 2017? Is that a have to or a nice to? And I think it's a have to because it's going to save us a lot of time and frustration. So now I'm going to add it to my list for 2017 and say, okay, we got to put a deadline to it. When can we get this done by? And I think it's going to create less stress, so that'll develop the people. All right, Brian, let's open this up. Can we please?
Will do. invited to a lot of the stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
So what did you teach?
No, I know I do this for my own good, but I'm kind of like
That's
a
what I'm
manager.
asking. Like, what? So what are you just doing it just to?
I'm like floor manager at my work, and
Brian, is that question coming to me, or did you just open people up?
I just opened people up.
Okay. All right. So can we have? You want to just type the questions then? Would that be better?
Yes, that would be better. If we could, everyone, there should be a chat window in your little side panel. If you go ahead and type the message in there, we can respond to questions that way, please.
I threw a party for Steve for his birthday. Do you know how many lists I had? I had lists on what needed to be done. Also, I had to realize what I had to get done before, and I created a deadline for myself, what had to get done and who was I going to assign it to, and many times the assignment was to me myself. So if anyone wanted to say, can I jump in and help you right now, I didn't have to have a conversation. I'd say, go find something on the list and tackle it. That's what your staff wants to do sometimes too, is they want to know what you need help on. And if it's all in your head, I have to reiterate this over and over again, is they don't know what you're working on. And when I create the playbook, I'll give it to our staff, and hopefully the people that report to me will then give it to and present it to their team and how they fit into the equation. And then also, after I get it done, there's many people that take pictures of it and put it right on their phone so they can say, this is what we're working on right now. I love that. Because if they ever did want to work somewhere else, what's one of the questions they're going to say to their future boss is, how does your team know what you're working on and what's next? We don't have any questions, Brian?
No, ma'am, not at this time.
We got 4 minutes left. And you know what? I think that don't let emotion get in the way of doing the right thing. I mean, I know you've got people that will push back, or people that say, well, I don't think that's necessary. I get that here too. I mean, there's times when they go, yeah, I don't know what she's smoking. I don't know why we're doing that. Even when we looked at this building that we moved into 5 years ago, there's people that couldn't see it. They came in and yet they walked in and said, oh my God, I could see them in the windows. They couldn't see me seeing them, but I saw them nudging each other, rolling their eyes like, man, there's no way. So what I had to do during that is I gave them tours of the vision over and over and over again. And some people would say, I still don't see it, Terry. I still don't see it. And then every step of the way, if we got a little bit done or the demo was done, they'd say, oh, I'm starting to see it. I'm starting to see it. If I would have kept that all to myself, do you think the excitement level would have been the same? And then I would sketch it out, and I would give them pictures of the sketch. This is it, and this is where your desk is going to be, and this is your area. The more you get them involved in any kind of change, like this is what we're going to do with our check-in. This is what it's going to create. I need everyone's input on this. What can we do? Don't be the same. Those businesses get boring really quick. And to keep your customer, you have to be on the edge of your seat. Brian, am I good? Is Steve still there, or did he have to take a call?
I'm right here.
Oh, okay. Let's do our closing remarks. And what are you thinking about after you hear this topic today? I'm sure your mind starts going too.
Oh, it absolutely does. I think that, again, I'll kind of end where we began. I think that this is a really opportune time. This is a time to not let 2017 sneak up on us. Make a move. Tony Robbins always says, take action. At the time you set a goal, take the first action before you leave the spot you're in right now. So what I guess I mean by that is if things have been spurred in your mind as a part of this call, take action on it before you do the next thing in the salon, before you take the next guest, before you go into work if you're not at work while you're listening to this. Take that step. Make a commitment to yourself that I'm going to do this and take a step toward it. I think that that's important because so much of this, there's so much information that comes at us. And I know that we're just some of it. But there's so much information that comes at us that it can become white noise or it can become well-intended. The number of times that, that I have every intention in the world to take action on something, and the day gets away without having taken action on that. And so I just want to, I want to encourage you as leaders to take some action immediately and take some action toward it every single day, and watch what happens.
Well, and I think another great question to say is how do you take action? Do you take action because of deadline? Or do you only take action when you have to report to somebody else? When do you take action? And are you someone that can take action because it's the right thing to do, or do you just keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off? Can you create the action, or do you have to have an action partner that will hold you accountable? So that's good. That's good thinking.
Well, thank you so much. Sure. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Terry, thanks for a great topic.
I don't even know what next one is. I always commit to saying it before I get off the phone. Oh, I've got it right here. Let's just say we're going to see you on December 7th. Best in class, first chair, lead chair. Oh, I love that. That's going to be a